Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've had the opportunity to have some valuable academic, scientific, or professional interactions. Rest assured, there will be plenty more of that throughout our ICONETC 2020. And now, we are proud to present you our keynote speaker, the Honorable Professor Bambang Permadi Sumantri Brojonegoro, PhD, Minister of Research and Technology, BRIN Indonesia. Your Excellency, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon, everybody. The rectors of SGU, Swiss German University, and all the management, professors, lecturers, and students, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank for the invitation to give the speech at this forum. And I believe this forum is very much important when we are talking about not only digital transformation, but also the importance of Indonesia to be an innovation-based economy. So if I can share the screen for my presentation material. Let's go to page 4, please. Yeah. So Indonesia really needs the paradigm shift. So far, Indonesia still resource-driven economy. Although we are now in the upper middle income country, which is a good position, but way to get rid of this trap, if we look at experiences of other countries in the world that has been successful in getting out of middle income country and becoming high income country or developed economy is basically through innovation. So we need a paradigm shift from resource-driven economy to innovation-driven economy. And innovation-driven economy, of course, we want to be an innovative nation, mastering science and technology. So this is important for us to master science and technology independently, but at the same time, globally competitive. In order to support this innovation-driven economy, of course, we need to have strong R&D, research and development activities. And to make sure the R&D will lead to innovation, we need to implement the triple helix. Triple helix basically is the synergy among three main stakeholders: government, academia, and industry. So far in Indonesia, of course, all these three components are there, but the problem, communication among the three, sometimes missing or lack of intensity. So at the end of the day, they work on their own and we cannot realize the innovation because each one of these stakeholders is busy with themselves. So with the triple helix, we hope that we can bridge the gap between academia and industry. Academia sometimes pursue their research interests without looking at the market needs, while the industry, of course, is very much interested with what market needs, but sometimes ignore what scientists or academicians has been working on. So government has to be there in order to facilitate and bridging the gap. And of course, the government here, especially our ministry, needs to intensify the communication so the industry will know quite significantly what academia has been doing, while academia at the same time also has to learn what market or community really needs. And the success of triple helix have been proven in major parts of the world, developed world, especially in Western Europe and also Far East Asia. To give you example, I think Korea has been a very successful country getting out of middle income trap in a very short period of time. Maybe the shortest, one of the shortest in the world. And Korea has been able to do that because they can shift their economy into innovation-based economy. And today, they are one of, for example, major player in cell phone industry. And they can be the major player, not because of the price of the cell phone industry, but because of the technology. Because they are very intensive in doing R&D in cell phone industry, doing product development, so they can produce always the new types of cell phone with new features. So of course, we need to make sure triple helix working in Indonesia, and in order to create the focus on this triple helix, we have the so-called national resource priority that will be applied every 5 years. So in these 5 years, 2020, 2024, we have several priority products or priority innovation. For example, amphibious aircraft to connect inter-island transportation in Indonesia, and then also military drone, because drone now becomes one of the major weapon in many countries, especially the big countries in the world. And also we have innovated the so-called catalyst that can convert the palm kernel oil from palm oil into the fuel. And of course, we want to substitute as much as possible green fuel to substitute the fossil fuel. And also, we are trying to reduce our import dependency on industrial salt, because so far we depend so much on the importing industrial salt. And we can use the technology to improve the quality of salt from the farmers into the industrial salts. So the price will be better, and the farmers themselves will be in a better position. And the reason why we need to move into innovation-based economy, because currently, in terms of global innovation index, Indonesia ranks quite low. We are only ranked 85 in the world, and in fact, in ASEAN, among the 10 members of ASEAN, we are ranked 7. And of course, way below the 2 leading innovative countries in ASEAN, which is Singapore and Malaysia. And if we look at the component of this Global Innovation Index, clearly we are still behind in many things, but certainly business sophistication, human capital and research, as well as institution, should be our main focus to improve our capability of being an innovative country. And if we look carefully at the each component's rank, clearly in terms of business sophistication and institution, we are very much behind. And this is the area that needs to be improved. So in this context, today, we are still dealing with the pandemic, but I believe this pandemic should be our opportunity to be more creative, to be more innovative. Why? Because we want the economic activity to be going on, maybe not at the normal rate, but hopefully as close as possible to the normal condition. And you know very well, whenever we on hyperconnectivity among the citizens, we do the retail, we do the transaction, we do negotiation by doing face-to-face meeting, by doing direct interaction. But of course, with the strict protocol of COVID-19, we cannot do that. But we still need economic activity. So the solution is to substitute the hyperconnectivity, the physical hyperconnectivity into virtual hyperconnectivity through the use of ICT, information and communication technology. So in short, the digital transformation that has happened before the pandemic needs to be accelerated. And we know very well, before the pandemic, the existence of the digital has been quite effective in replacing and making life more efficient. And of course, some activities that used to be done physically now can be done easily using the digital approach. For example, when we do banking, when we do the retail. But of course, to support this less contact economy, this is the definition of the economy that substituting the physical hyperconnectivity with ICT, information and communication technology, there should be change of the mindset, especially for the people. So people are, more willing to use digital instead of physical. And then, of course, there will be a shift in business practices themselves, and could be the shift in the business environment in general. So we have to anticipate this, and of course, we have to make sure should be at the same level with the one that has been that used to be done physically or with the full physical contact. So in this case, less contact economy should be the area that we should promote the innovation. What kind of innovation in the less contact economy? We can see on the 10 digital trends during this pandemic, like online shopping, for example. Of course, we are very familiar, and I think it's good for us if we keep doing the innovation in this online shopping, so the customers feel that whenever they do online shopping, they feel it's not much different compared to what they are doing, if they go to shopping mall, if they go to the traditional market. So we need to make everything virtual, as close as possible to the real one. And then, of course, the other one would be payments. I think digital banking has been mainstream in Indonesian community. Usually, we never go to the bank, to the bank office, to the branch of the bank office. And instead, we just depend everything on our mobile banking, for example. The other one would be online entertainment. I think this is still behind, but if we keep innovating, if we keep developing the product for online entertainment, I believe there will be a market, because people are eager to enjoy entertainment, but they cannot do that because of strict protocol. So the solution is doing the entertainment online. But of course, at the same time, we need to make sure this entertaining as the real entertainment itself. And then supply chain 4.0, we are talking about automation in the manufacturing industry, which is now becomes the factor for competitiveness. If you want to be more competitive in manufacturing, there is no other way than applying the Industrial Revolution 4.0, the technology through the automation, combined with the 3D printing, because now 3D printing has been quite effective in making many products. If you remember the face shields that you might use sometimes, especially in the crowd, this face shield can be, designed and made through 3D printing. So you don't need, large-scale manufacturing just to manufacture the face shield. The other one would be the thing that we are doing right now, which is teleworking. The webinar and everything now becomes like the household name, because everybody does that. Everybody feels having a webinar is much more efficient and effective compared to the real seminar. And then telemedicine, I think this is the area that still needs a lot of innovation, because the so-called telemedicine today if you go around with telemedicine in Jakarta, for example, basically they only offer the so-called e-consultation and e-prescription. So only give the prescription electronically and give the consultation, also doing a consultation electronically. But if you look at the advanced telemedicine, for example, in the US, their telemedicine, they can, for example, check your pulse, check your heart rate, check your temperature, from the virtual, So of course, the device, the computer, sensor to check all the vital signs. And then the robot and drones, I think you must be very much aware that we have to use this robot and drones as much as possible. Of course, it will be more efficient and it will reduce the needs of people to go around and, of course, for example, to monitor what happened in South China Sea, for example. We don't have to use all the ships, from Navy and everything. Use the drone will be more effective and efficient. And then teleeducation and training. I believe the Swiss German University has to do this online education, but I believe online education will be the future education. It's not just emergency, but it will be one of the pattern for future education. And then, of course, we have to understand even better the advancement of the 5G as well the ICT itself. So how is our digital transformation development in the next 5 years? First, infrastructure, broadband expansion. And of course, whenever we do the broadband expansion, it has to combine between the BTS, the fiber optic, as well as the satellite. Indonesia is so big, and as the largest archipelagic island, it will be hard to depend everything on the fiber optic connection. So satellite has to accompany or has to complement the fiber optic connection. And then government needs to improve the services through e-government. So e-government is not just about, some fancy technology. E-government is necessity in order to improve the public services. And then, of course, as I mentioned, for education, health, social, even for agriculture, e-commerce, basically many sectors in economy will enjoy the benefit of the ICT. Being digital actually is in line with more economic productivity. But at the same time, we need to strengthen our digital human resources. Indonesia, to some extent, still depends on the expertise of digital from abroad. So, of course, we need to localize. We need to create more local talents for this digital expertise. And then we need to strengthen the domestic industry itself for ICT. More and more companies will be very much welcome. And then at the same time, technology adoption, especially when we are talking big data and IoT. I think big data now becomes so-called the major data, or I usually call the next gold mining is the data mining. Why? Because big data can collect and predict the behavior of human being. And it will be very much beneficial for the business to use big data as much as possible. And then to improve or to increase the effectiveness of big data, then artificial intelligence is becomes one of the main tools to utilize the big data itself. And then IoT, of course, because then everything needs to be in internet form, because that's what people are looking for, especially the younger generation. So when we are talking about the future, especially digital transformation, then we need to speed up also the internet of many things, internet of things that and also more efficient. So hopefully by 2045, Indonesia will be one of the world-class creative and digital economy centers. And this is supposed to be the goal of our innovation-driven economy, because Korea already defines their innovation through electronic industry, especially cell phone industry. Japan has been done that, especially for automotive industry. So if Indonesia someday becomes the developed country and trying to do that through innovation-driven economy, we have to define in what kind of innovation that will bring Indonesia into the global stage. So focusing on digital economy, I think will be beneficial for our country. First, digital economy will allow efficient use of resources. I think there's no doubt about this. We understand about the effectiveness of the digital economy. And then this is also more important, especially to deal with the corruption, encouraging financial transparency, because there will be digital footprint, created by all the financial activities. And then, of course, it's good not only for public money, but also for private money, and also could protect, the people in terms of doing financial transaction, and then improve the community welfare. One good example of how digital can improve community welfare, I remember one of the digital application that has been developed for the fishermen. So in the past, whenever the fishermen, just caught the fish, the fresh fish usually had to be sold to the intermediaries, pedagang perantara. And these intermediaries will seller and finally to the final consumer. So it takes so long. I mean, the market chain is so long, so the price at the customer will be high, while farmers only get small amount of money, and it's not good for their income. It won't help them out of the poverty. But with the existence of digital application, now the fisherman can sell the fish, the fresh fish just caught in the ocean, directly to the final customers, either supermarket, restaurants, or others. So it will help, it will cut all the rent seekers that usually happens in the intermediary process. And then digital economy will also encourage the digital footprint. And for the people who work in, let's say, in banking community, this digital footprint will be like know your customer. Whenever you are a credit officer, you need to have, the quality to do know your customer, because before you give the credit, you have to know this borrower will be able to give the money back to the bank. But of course, it needs collateral and everything. It will be complicated. But with this digital approach, then digital footprint will be the one that explain about know your customer, and could be also used as substitute for the collateral. Yeah. And then there are some issues and policies in digital economy that we should pay attention. Of course, connectivity is the one. Infrastructure is important, and then to encourage more and more in many parts of the world. Logistic, it has to be innovation, digital innovation in logistic services to make sure, of course, the efficiency of the logistic itself. Indonesia is still considered as the country with the high logistic costs. Our logistic costs still more than 20% of our GDP. Of course, it's not good for a business community. And we need to make logistics more efficient, not only by, adding the trucks or adding the train, but more importantly is through the digital innovation. And then data policy, especially data sharing, and also about privacy, because data is very much important, but of course, we cannot entertain the probability of data, of the privacy, abuse of privacy, because it could happen if we don't really regulate this data. And then planning and strategy, of course, is important. And then cybersecurity. And now, whenever we are talking about the national security, it's not just about military security, but sometimes cybersecurity becoming a critical issue, especially for business level, for banking sector, financial sectors, and also for the e-commerce. Now they really need to equip themselves with this cybersecurity, because there are so many hackers every day, every hour maybe, or every minute, trying to hack the website. And of course, it's dangerous for the business continuity. And then customer protection always becomes one of the essential part. And this is the one that I would like to emphasize at the end of my. If we want to do smooth and quick digital transformation, there is no way that we can. There is no way we can do it without entrepreneurship. We need more entrepreneurs in digital area. Before going to the entrepreneurship, we need to create the ecosystem of digital economy. And again, the center of attention is the entrepreneur, either micro scale, small scale, or medium scale. Whatever scale they have, they need the support. They need support from you, from university, in terms of technological development, and of course, the human resource, the talent, digital talent, as well as they need the support from the companies that doing smart logistics, because this is the way they can get the market access, or at least digital platform company. In the digital platform company, either application, social media, e-commerce, this is now the most important marketplace for the digital entrepreneurs, as well as the support from the network operators, because then you can rely on the quality of the connection and quality of the transaction. So this is the importance of the ecosystem. So the companies can sell their product at the easiest way to the customers. And it's good during the pandemic. So we don't need to depend on the physical infrastructure or on the properties, shopping mall, traditional market, just to do the business or retail transaction. Of course, government needs to supervise and needs to provide proper regulation. And then part of the digital transformation is the digital ecosystem acceleration through data-driven decision. So of course, now, as I mentioned, big data is the next gold mining. Whenever you do the business decision or business prediction, big data is very much important. So we need to collect as much as possible the data itself. And with the wider data, we can provide opportunities for better business, higher revenue, as well as reducing the cost. So this is the beauty of the big data. But of course, there are some challenges. For example, the work culture in utilizing technology, because then sometimes there is, sometimes the understanding about the big data itself is still lack, meaning that people do not believe that big data actually is much more powerful than maybe statistics. And then the readiness of organizational infrastructure, as well as, of course, the critical one, readiness of talent pool. Because if you want to utilize the data, you need to have data scientists. And of course, the universities, I believe, including SGU, needs to provide either department or maybe a program of data science. And data science is a bit different with statistics. Statistics is about the data, but data science basically combining the statistics with the computer science, with telecommunication technology. So at the end, you can get the raw data not by survey or by questionnaire, but raw data through telecom. Let's see our position in Southeast Asia. I mean, I will not describe all of them, but in general, we are not the leader in digital economy in Southeast Asia. For example, even in the mobile broadband subscribers, in terms of percentage of population, yes, Indonesia has a very good, on the left, Indonesia is in the very good condition, 100%. So our 100%, all the population, total population, everybody has mobile broadband subscribers. This is based on the data. But look at Thailand, because Thailand is not a small country. I mean, their population is quite big, almost 100 million, if I'm not mistaken. But they have the mobile band subscriber 170%. So it means, you know, the mobile broadband has been more extensive in Thailand compared to Indonesia. Of course, we are in the much better position compared to Philippines. In terms of price of mobile broadband, as percentage of gross national income per capita, so how expensive or how cheap the price of mobile broadband relatively, then Indonesia, unfortunately, is not the cheapest one. Yeah. In fact, we are part of the most expensive one with the Philippines. So, of course, this is still our homework, how to make mobile broadband more affordable to majority of our people. So, of course, they can really utilize digital economy. They want to be part of digital economy because they know it's not that expensive to be involved in this digital economy through telecommunication and internet connection. So I just discussed this too. Of course, there are many other aspects that needs to be considered, but starting with these first two, we know that our potential in digital economy is so big, but the price is not that cheap. So people, maybe not all people can have affordable broadband. So as a result, they have difficulties in utilizing the digital. And you can see the experience of our students, especially elementary students in remote areas, in villages, when they have to do online education, in which they have difficulty just to secure the connection. And also they have problem with, you know, the payment of getting the connection itself. So back to the idea of the digital entrepreneurship. Well, this is another aspect. If in the competitiveness we are quite low, then maybe one of the reason because our entrepreneurship is also quite low. Ranked number 75 out of 137 countries based on the data in 2019. So this is the area that we need to focus because we want to be innovation-driven economy, and we need both digital transformation and we need more entrepreneurship. So if we combine, what we need is digital, or we need more digital entrepreneurship. And of course, again, compared to other ASEAN countries, we might be a bit competitive with Thailand, but certainly we are below Singapore and Malaysia. So again, the idea to create entrepreneurship has to come from us. And who should be the supplier, quote unquote, of this digital entrepreneurship? It's university, including Swiss German University. Who could be the best candidates? Students. Because students, of course, they learn about the knowledge, the science, and they are exposed to the network. So this is the time in which we educate our students, not just mastering their field of study or mastering the science or technology, but also mastering the entrepreneurship. We need to encourage more of our students when they graduate, they are ready to become entrepreneurs, because Indonesia needs more entrepreneurs. I mean, the number of entrepreneurs today is way below the standard. So we need to increase that. And then, because we are talking about the future, of course, the future entrepreneurs should be technology-based, should be digital-based, yeah, because of course we want this entrepreneur to be successful in the future. Of course, some of them will still continue with their conventional or traditional business, which is fine. We need more entrepreneurs, but we need to encourage more of them to be part of this startup, basically the technology-based entrepreneurs. And on the last page, next page, please. Our ministry has a program to support the startup called Startup Inovasi Indonesia. And we start, grooming the startup, not only when they already have the companies, but when they already have a good proposal, a good business plan. I think if we consider this is a good good business plan, good ideas, good innovation, then we will finance them to basically to complete their technology, to complete the innovation, make the technology or innovation ready, to be operated. And after that, we also support when they start to building the companies, the startup itself. And then after they are successful as startup, we also promote them to do scaling up, because we want these companies to be bigger and start attracting the interest from private equity, from venture capital, or from other big companies or big investors. So we really hope we can produce more and more startups. We know that many of them will fail, but of course, one-time failure is not the total failure. Of course, they can try again with other ideas, other approach, and then if we look some of the feature product that has been groomed under our support, including we also include the incubators, especially on the startup process, then we can come up with some good products, look simple, but they have technological content, and some of them including the digital content. For example, Aruna Fishery Marketplace. This is the application that I mentioned, can make the fishermen sell their fresh seafood product directly from them into the final customers without going long intermediary process. And of course, the farmers becomes at least in better economic condition. And then the other would be autopilot drone. There is satay that could last for 6 months without preservative, as well as flat plate ship, or the ship that is unique, is different with the traditional ship. And it will be useful for not only fishermen, but also for other purposes in the ocean. So basically, this is the way for us to do digital transformation, and digital entrepreneurship is very much important element in this digital transformation. And again, I encourage the Swiss German University not only to modify the curriculum to anticipate the digital transformation, especially in the future, but also to encourage more of their students to be, part of the digital entrepreneurship. And this will be, I think, a good start, good foundation for Indonesia to become innovation-driven economy. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the honor of your presence and keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a virtual round of applause for His Excellency, Professor Bambang Brojonegoro. So much that can be done by universities to take part in Indonesia's innovation. Thank you, Professor.